First of all, I have to tell you that I don't have a plan. There's not much point having a plan, is it? Because I don't know who is here, I don't know who you are, and I don't know what exactly we are going to do. So that's a good point to start from. All right. The idea is that you don't all know each other. You don't know where you are from. I have no idea. We're going to try and see if we can answer a question. Okay? I don't know the question yet. But we'll find out. Now, normally I do this kind of thing inside a school where there are not so many people. Okay? I mean, so many is an understatement here. So I'm going to ask you to do something very, very difficult, okay? Can you pretend that they don't exist? You know what, just try. I mean, I can't help you any more than that. Okay, so you've got to pretend they're not there. The second thing is that I need an assistant. I need an assistant to maintain law and order with them. Okay. Wait. We must have a method by which we find who is going to be that assistant. Any ideas? If you're with a whole lot of unknown people, and you've got to figure out who can be a good assistant to me.
Start by discussing what a good assistant needs to do, and find the skills which the assistant needs to have, perhaps.
Well, I mean, you asked a very difficult question. He's asking me, we first need to know what the assistant needs to do. The answer is I don't quite know myself. Well, let's put it this way, that we know a couple of things. We know that first of all, they shouldn't disturb us. Okay? Which I'm sure that they're going to try their level best to do. So we have to find a way to stop them from doing that. So we have to set some rules for them. And then of course we have to figure out what we want. Okay? So first, if that's the role of the assistant, I mean basically the assistant is the kind of person to whom I can say, look, there seems to be a lot of noise over there, and the assistant goes and sorts that out. Or it might be, I might say to the assistant, look, we've got a problem. He wants to go to the bathroom. The assistant has to sort that out. Okay? Yeah, those are important things. We could get a problem where somebody says, my computer is not working. The assistant has to sort that out. Okay? Don't ask me how, but these are some of the jobs that we have. So let's get an assistant. Sort of, you got to just, all you can do is look around yourselves and just make a wide guess about who might be a good assistant.
There are girls here. They want to do something.
Who?
Girls, the first. These girls.
Okay.
It should maybe be someone that's good with technology.
Pardon?
It should be someone that's good with technology, I think.
You mean if they have to sort out who's going to go to the bathroom?
Yeah. No, with the computers.
It's got, I don't know what troubles we're going to have in the next 1 hour. It could be technology, it could be social, it could be, I don't know, anything.
There's a lot of people here, so it needs to be like a social person.
We've got two pieces of advice there. There's technology, there's social.
I think perhaps it should be someone that knows how to first speak to people, how to communicate in a good way, and someone who can find the right person to solve a problem. It doesn't have to know himself how to solve the issue through a computer, perhaps.
Well, let's try and do this quickly. How about some people from the back? What do you think? How should we? You right at the back. How do you think we should find an assistant? Okay, no idea. Oh dear. How about anybody else has an idea how to find a good assistant? It can't be from them. It has to be from one of you. Anybody want to volunteer?
I think everyone wants to participate in that.
Well, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that my assistant is also going to participate in the experiment, in addition to doing his assistance.
Yes, he can do it.
Okay, we've got one volunteer here. Okay. Okay, we've got 3 volunteers. Okay, are there 2 or 3 of you? Are you a part of this group as well?
Yes.
Oh, you are.
We're just sitting here.
Oh, you're just sitting there. Okay, right. Okay. So so all 3 of you, or is it only the 2 of you?
The 3 of them, the 4 of them.
The 2 of you. Okay.
4 of them, 4 of them.
4 of you.
The 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
No.
Okay, that's very clear. All right. We've got now 3 volunteers. Would you mind standing up? The 3 volunteers. There's one there. We've got 3 volunteers. Would you come here? Okay. Now this is the best I can do. Let us take volunteer number 1. How many votes? Just raise your hand if you think she'll make a good assistant.
Vote for me.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. Thank you. Our volunteer number 2.
I'm going to be the one who will make it into space.
Okay. Volunteer number 2. 1, 2, 3, 7. Okay. All right. Thank you. Volunteer number 3. It looks like we have a winner here. Okay. As you saw, that was clearly a democratic method of choosing a volunteer. That's how democracy works with it. Anyway, so what's your name? Ron. Okay, all right, Ron.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ron is going to be my assistant for this. Now comes the question of what do we do? Okay, tell me, what's the subject you like the most? Anybody? Yeah?
History.
History, robotics. Pardon?
Science.
Math. Okay.
Biology.
History, science, biology, math.
I think big history, like the exploration of general ideas, like the most general way you can think.
Okay, so history could be a possibility. Okay, we've got the general idea, but I want to ask another question now. What's the subject? What's the subject that you like the least?
Math.
Math.
I like the least, like, I don't know, I don't like, let's think, I like all the classes. Okay, let's think.
So you got math as one. Two math.
Subject as a type of learning and knowledge, or as a class in school?
Whichever way you feel you want to define it.
Sports at school.
Sports at school.
Yeah, also sports in school.
Language.
Clearly defined things.
Clearly defined fields. All right. Shall we take one of those that you like the most, or shall we take one of those that you like the least?
At least.
Like the most?
I think we should take the subject we like the least.
I think
so
also.
we can learn.
Okay, so you, why do you feel, why do you think that?
I think what do we like the most? We everywhere hear about this and interested about it. What if I like the least? We don't.
Okay.
We try to go from this subject.
I think
How about a chance for the people at the back? Should we go for, yeah?
I have an idea what we can what we can do. We can think about music.
Music, okay. So we could do something about music. I mean, I like that actually.
I throw out my opinion about why we should do the subject we like the least.
Yeah.
I think we should do the subject we like the least because I think it can give us a different perspective on the subject. We shall now try to learn it in a different way.
In a different way, okay. Why should we learn it if we hate it? Okay. So, all right. Now that we don't have a lot of time, otherwise we could have taken this a little bit further. But let's see what we can do. How about if we take math, which was popularly voted as a disliked subject, and music, which, well, you guys didn't say much about it, but I guess you don't mind. I mean, music's okay.
The combination is fascinating. Like, it's
Music is built on that.
Okay, you're getting there. So what if we took music, which everybody seems to like, and math, which lots of people don't like, and we try to do something with both? Okay. Are you okay with that? A little bit of both? A little bit of good, a little bit of bad? It's okay, all right. Okay. Let's get on with it. Okay, tell me something. What's the opposite of black?
white, not black.
Not black, white. Okay, that's pretty much easy. What's the opposite of 10? Minus 10.
That's the reason
Who said 1? Who said 1? Okay, why did you say 1?
Here is the 1 and here is the 0.
Fantastic. Okay. I mean, so there are lots of ways of looking at it. Yes. I guess the official answer would be minus 10, the other side of 0. But you could just look at 1, 0 and then turn it upside down and then become 0, 1. So anyway, so there are opposites. And what's the opposite of good? Bad. No questions about that. What's the opposite of sound? Silence.
Is it?
But
Is
there
it
is a
that
sound of
silence is just no sound. It's not anti-silence.
Yeah, well, but I mean,
Silence is kind of a
It
sound.
could be such a thing as the opposite of sound. It's a way up the concept.
well, I suppose
Actually, if you
the
turn
closest you could
sound
get-
upside down, it's still
the closest you could get to is the absence of sound, I guess.
Perhaps not. It's like when you explore music, maths, you find out that music can be clearly defined. Like in terms of marks, it's nothing. It's never clearly defined. But maybe we can define the answer.
Could you make music with silence?
Yes. For example, I learned the violin and my teacher always told me to notice the breaks and things like that. Because breaks and silence is very important in music.
Okay, now listen. This is getting pretty serious. What she's saying is that maybe sounds and silence have a relationship with each other. That's pretty complicated. Sounds pretty complicated to me. But that makes for a good question, I think.
There is something.
There is?
Something.
There is something in it. Yeah, I feel the same way. That there is something in it. I don't quite know what. So shall we try this? That for the next, I don't know, about maybe half an hour, 35 minutes, we look at a question. The question is, what's the role of silence in music? It's a bit of
I think silence
silence has
has a
a what?
silence has
A big part.
part in music because in music you have some silence, and I think if in some songs if you don't have these parts of silence, the song is really very less good.
Yeah, you're almost there. I mean, I'm sure there's officially a bigger answer, but you're pretty much there. Yeah?
I think the part of silence in music is very big. Sometimes it could be built up. I think that it depends. There are so many kinds of music, but there are a lot of melodies that have like pauses. It's not just like.
Well, never mind melodies. If we were to talk like that, we would be able to understand. Exactly. So what's missing there? Silence, I guess. So anyway, so let's take that question for a moment, okay? Let's take that question and let's not guess. Let's try and find out. You've got 8 computers here. You've got internet connections. You've got all of you. Let's do 25 minutes. Okay, till 3 o'clock, 28 minutes. Okay. We can stop before that if you think you're finished. At the end of 28 minutes, at 3 o'clock, one of you, because we won't have a lot of time, one of you, or maybe 2 of you, I'll leave that to you. Ron will figure that out. 1 or 2 of you will tell us your findings. Okay, not just his or her findings, but the whole group's findings. So you have to get together, summarize, and you have to figure out who's going to give that answer. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So now we've got a plan. My goodness, we've got an assistant, we've got a plan, we've got a time schedule. We even have a budget. Where's Yakov? Anyway, so
Can you repeat the question?
I will repeat the whole thing. So the thing is, we started off with people we don't know, looking at people who don't know each other. Myself, who didn't quite know what I'm supposed to do. And from there, we first got an assistant, Ron. I don't know what is it that Ron did, but magically a plan has appeared. We want to study the relationship of silence with music. We want to do that because one of the subjects that got voted as not very liked, math, often talks about opposites. And we saw that it can be confusing. What's the opposite of 10? It could be minus 10, it could be 0, 1. We don't know. So, And then if we take that confusion of maths about opposites and bring it to something that's not so math, which is music, and see if the two have a relationship. And you tend to feel that they do, but we need a more official stance. We need a statement and some facts and figures maybe, or whatever. We will do that in 28 minutes, at the end of which one of you who is selected by all of you and Ron together will present the findings at 3 p.m. You have 8 computers and you do what you like with them. You sit where you want, you can move around, you can talk, I mean, you can just do what you like, basically. Okay, as long as Ron allows it. Remember, for the next 28 minutes, Ron's words is the law.
Our normal independence dictator.
Yeah, look, I mean, we just got to do this. This is it. You know, Ron the Conqueror. No, listen. Otherwise, we're going to have chaos here. So the same thing, and the same thing for the entire audience. Please, but firstly, try not to come and sit on top of the children because you might crush them. But yes, you can watch from a distance, please. It's hard enough for them trying to figure this out. It's not the easiest question. It's even harder if they know that there are about 100 invisible people watching them. Okay? So Ron will do a bit of managing with that. If you find that they're getting a bit unbearable,
I'm sure to be fair.
you can check them out. That's all right. You don't have to ask me. All right. If you find there's too much noise, then, or if our participants complain about poor behavior, then you can act on that. You take all the necessary decisions. The relationship of silence to music. 28 minutes. 27 now. Shall we start?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, let's go. Well, firstly, I think I wanted to point out something funny to you. That's why I broke in. I shouldn't have, because Ron was, just doing a perfect job. As you could see, first of all, are you all absolutely clear on one thing, that Ron here can replace me? When I talk about this in a lecture without doing a demo, then people keep booing me and saying that's rubbish and that can't be true. Sorry. That's number one. Number two, I wanted to point out another thing to all of you. It's actually a bit of a pity. Did you see that it took you 28 minutes to research a pretty difficult topic, sound and silence? It took you 25 minutes to be able to come to what in English we call a consensus of opinion. And let me tell you one thing. We, the previous generation, we are absolutely horrible at it. Okay? Almost all the problems we have in the whole world is because it takes 15 minutes to do the science, and it takes a year to come to a consensus of opinion. Or who is going to say it, what's he going to say, etc. So I broke in here to say that you saying that 4 people should talk, I think it makes perfect sense. 4 people should talk. The sense that I get from listening to you is that sounds and silence are related. I think almost everybody said that. And that relationship is not very easy to express. Okay, there is a connection, but it's not very easy to express. I found it very interesting, the point at which you got stuck, because it was correct. It was a point I would have got stuck also, because it was not an obvious connection. So what he was trying to say, what I heard from him, which I thought was really interesting, was that there's a connection, he said, and then he stopped. And I think in that lies the real answer to what's the relationship between sound and silence. It's so deep that you can't actually express it. Words cannot quite express that relationship. And while I was listening to all of you, this was a pretty brilliant kind of a presentation that you did. While I was listening to all of that, I also got another impression. We don't have the time to do it. But sound and silence, in a way, they're opposites, right? So could it be true that other opposites also have a relationship? You see what I mean? That could 1 and 0 be related?
They could.
Life and death?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sorrow and joy?
Yes.
So maybe it's what we got at is the underlying mechanism of nature. You take the opposites and you join them together, and the relationship, when you try to express it, words will fail. Imagine getting to that in 28 minutes. So well done, very well done. As you saw, it went where it went. That's the nature of these sessions. So I didn't come with a plan because I had no idea who I was going to be, who was going to be there, and so on. So in normal teaching and learning practice, that doesn't work because you have to come with a session plan. But you can make it work like this. The build-up to the question. You must have noticed that I took quite some time to build up to the question. First of all, I didn't have a question in my mind. So I had to think of something. So I thought of, what do you like best, what do you like worst, and then can we join the two, etc. If you do it yourself, you might get another question. It doesn't matter. But the build-up is important, because otherwise it becomes like traditional teaching and learning, where you come in and write on the, today's question is. That's no fun. Why is that today's question? Who decided it's today's question? This way they had a reason why they were going to do this. The third thing is, I think you must have seen the role of Ron in this whole thing, of having someone from the group itself do the management. It's far more effective, I think, than trying to do it yourself. The fourth thing is, I keep talking in my lectures, and for those of you who heard the main talk, I often mention the word that once you set up the environment, the soul, and once it begins to run, you hear a buzzing noise. I think if you kept your ears open, you would have heard it today. It's a buzzing noise. It reminds me of a hive. It works like a hive. The fourth thing is that when people say, does it mean we don't need teachers? I think you can see very clearly that we do need teachers. It's just that it's a much harder job than standing and teaching. But there is this non-intuitive thing that you can actually attempt something that you don't know yourself, and then draw from the children. You might say, well, couldn't they get something wrong? But in my experience, if you have at least 3 groups of 4, and if you have the internet, they'll never get anything wrong. It's self-correcting. So I'll leave it at that, and you just seen it yourself. So do you have any sort of questions or comments or anything?
First of all, thank you very much. It was a wonderful experience to see it, and to see the kids and what they got, the answers. I had a question. I saw that there was a very big weight on the grouping, on the collaboration, but I thought about the individual in each group, and I was concerned about how the individual promote his own knowledge, and how do we know that he expressed himself, because I saw one of the groups, he said, well, I got to a different conclusion than my teammates. And how can we make sure that they work together, and maybe all the ideas are shared together and expressed, and then get to...
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, there are actually 2 associated issues. One is, of course, that what happens if you don't agree with your group. Normally, you would try to voice that disagreement, but sometimes there's not enough time or whatever it is. So, but then, when I think about particularly scientific research, it's a very common problem, where you have single individuals who say, I don't agree. And then it's for that dissenter to prove their point through further research. Here you can't do that. So here, when you're summing up, the important thing is to give him a voice, which Ron did. So we all heard the dissenter. If we had quietened him down, then of course that wouldn't be nice. Okay, if he said, no, everybody else is not supporting you, therefore you don't speak. So I knew that something like that would happen, but the reason I said that one presentation at the end was only to get them to work on consensus. And as it has happened, I've done this many times before, as it always happens, it's I suppose a lesson for us grown-ups. The consensus is what creates the problem. Okay, what happens is that first of all it takes a long time for consensus, and secondly in the process of consensus, they dumb down the answer.
Yeah, right.
All the deeper stuff is left out, and they just dump it down to a one-sentence answer because everybody agreed. So we, I think, better examine ourselves about how much we should use consensus as the method, as opposed to multiple voices. Okay?
So thank you again. This is very fascinating to see and to be part of. My question, you said that if they have the internet and use it enough, they won't get the wrong answer. Basically, I agree, I understand, but aren't you concerned about them hitting even a commercial site first? Here there was no big, so how can you be sure that they're not getting a biased view or just a wrong view from the internet?
Well, good question. I mean, it used to trouble me a lot. I say used to, but there's a reason for that. First of all, the geometry of the room. This was not entirely ideal, but if you, it should be such that you have the 8 big screens all visible to each other. When that happens, particularly with groups of learners and particularly with groups of children, you will find that children themselves will point out. Somebody sitting in one group will point to another group and say, that's an ad. Don't look at that, that's not saying the right thing. So it's self-correcting. The second thing is that can they as a group get to a wrong conclusion, totally? I haven't seen it. I assume that you can, okay? It's an experiment that I, to be very honest, don't want to try, because I think there are 2 subjects where you can get to a collective wrong conclusion. And those 2 subjects are religion and politics. So what can I say? If I had the power, I'd say take those out of school. But be careful with those 2. But other than that, particularly in science, in the mainstream humanities, they won't get to the wrong answer. Provided you can do 2 things. They're encouraged to look at each other's work, and that they're allowed to change their group, which none of them did here. In the middle of the process, you're allowed to get up and change your group. So if you sort of, they're just not getting it. And if you notice from the corner of your eye that another group is perhaps a little more amenable to that, you get up and walk over there. Okay, so a combination of these 2, being able to look at each other's work and to be able to exchange groups, that seems to self-correct the whole process. In the worst possible eventuality, what has never happened to me, but suppose it did, they got to a wrong answer. Then you trigger another question and hope that the second question will tell them that the first one was wrong. Okay, that sort of thing. Let's see.
I want to ask about the helper. As I understood, you asked him to help you with the older group, and in one time he decided to help with all the group of the children. Is it your plan that he will lead that?
No, it's not. The assistant that is elected, I find that the safest bet is to give him or her a completely free hand. So if he feels that he's capable of helping the children, then he's the only individual inside the whole setup who is allowed to do so. Okay, because he's in charge. He is the boss for that duration.
Usually it happens like that?
It happens sometimes. Sometimes a helper says to other groups that, you know what, I know a little bit of this answer already. So let me tell you. I used to think about whether I should stop that from happening, but then I thought, but the helper is chosen from the group itself. So the helper is special. Why should I stop? Because that's it's part of the group resource.
Thank you very much for this amazing experiment here. I want to ask, do you think all the teachers are capable of creating such nice questions? You are really good at questioning, you know?
I know many people have asked me, it's very confusing. there are several points of view. Some people say, can't you make a bank of questions somewhere? You know, but that's not going to work. I'll tell you why, because then it's going to become one of those boring things where you say, today is Tuesday, it's question number 56. And that's it. My method goes for a toss after that. You have to make the question. Having said that, not everybody makes it the same way. So I have three teachers in the world right now. Two of them are in England, one is in America, who make questions. Sometimes they make questions much better than I do. So I asked them this question. What they said is, and it's a very hopeful thing that they said. They said, no, there is no formula, but there is a click point. There is a point after which you know how to do it. It's an art of some sort. The closest I can get to telling you what you need to be able to do that is the ability to think like a 9-year-old. Okay, it's kind of fun if you can, but if you can, then the questions will come incredibly quickly and effectively. 9, according to me, is the right age. 9, 10, 11 maybe. Definitely not 5. Okay, I'll tell you why. Yeah, never try asking a 5-year-old to make the question. I've had it. The last time I tried it, the question that the 5-year-olds made was, are we real?
So why is it funny? That's why it's funny. It's funny for adults.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's funny for adults.
You didn't say, why is that funny? I agree with you. I mean, the problem...
It is a logical question. Are we real?
Yeah, that's it. It is. I mean, who say we're not? So that was... no, so the reason the reason I'm saying that I'm not saying the question is bad, the question is brilliant. But I'm saying that the reason why I don't dare do it with 5-year-olds, because they come up with this stuff which you cannot do in 25 minutes.
Because you don't know that.
Okay, the other time I tried, again with 5-6-year-olds in England, the question they made was, who made space? Okay, and I let them work on it. And they worked on it, and then they said, but nobody could have made space because you need space to exist in. So therefore, and then they said, this is Church of England school, they said, therefore God doesn't exist. He couldn't have made space. At which point I had to ditch my method and say, silence! So what can I do? So be careful with that one, but as they get older, particularly at 15, 16, 17, they can start making really meaningful questions and help with the curriculum itself. Yes, please.
Hi. It's a wonderful experience, but how do you implement it in everyday life in the classroom? Like, how do you...
Okay, now brass tacks. Okay, first of all, doing this every day is going to be painful. You won't have the time for it, the children will get bored with it, like anything that you do every day. I'd say about once a week, once in 10 days, something like that. You'll have to find a way to stick it into the timetable. Okay. My teacher friends tell me...
Not necessarily into the timetable, just as a method.
As a method, I mean, so instead of a particular lesson, what my teacher friends tell me is that they've got two kinds. So they come in with whatever they wanted to teach, they convert it to a question, they do all that you saw, and they fire it off, and they get two kinds of results. One kind, and that's the day, according to them, that they go home dancing, is they find half a semester's work done in 40 minutes. Okay? And the other kind, where they just didn't even do what she would have done in the first 5 minutes. They went into great depths on it, but they didn't go where she would have gone. So now she's lost 45 minutes. But what she said was that it balances, the two balance. So the day that you gain time is used to set off against the day that you lose time. So that's the way you balance. Don't do it every week. The school principal has to agree, that, which is sort of easier said than done in some countries. Where school principals tend to prowl up and down the corridor when you're teaching. And every once in a while they hear this incredible buzzing noise coming from a classroom. And they will stop, and if they don't know, then they will say, what's going on? Okay, because they see children running around and making a mess. So you need to know that. You need to discuss it in the staff room. By the way, the other way to get to a good question is to put it up in the staff room. And sometimes you'll find that if you're making a question about volcanoes, and the most unlikely of people, maybe the school gardener makes the best question for you. And then you bring that back into the classroom.
It's not meant for democratic school. You use it in normal schools.
I use it in normal schools as well. In fact, I use it more in normal schools than any other. The places like democratic schools are anyway that 2 inches away from this in their own methods.
Yes, I don't have a question. If you allow me, I just want to share. I'm from Bulgaria, and we won a project. We implemented S.O.L.E in 3 public schools in Bulgaria, and it's amazing. The results are amazing. Children like it a lot, and this was their favorite class. They had it once a week. Teachers were really amazed. They found that they can have really a different role in this learning process, and that is the role of the supporter, but not the one who just telling the stuff to the kids. And it's really amazing, and we hope that more and more people in Bulgaria are willing to implement it.
Well, I mean, if I just take off from that, I mean, this was a specific example of a country, but even if I say so myself, I haven't heard differently from anywhere.
I'm sure
so
about
far.
it. Yeah.
And this is my strongest point against the critics. There are critics. What the critics say is that you haven't published enough. I have published a bit. When I publish, then they say your sample is not big enough. Okay, so I don't know where do I go from there. But my saving grace is, I say to them, I'm waiting for one teacher somewhere to write to me to say, I set up a S.O.L.E exactly as you told me. I set up a really good question and it didn't work. The children said we couldn't find anything. It's never ever happened. So I don't think it ever will. Okay, so that I think you more or less got the idea. It's not.
Another she wants to.
Okay.
The last one.
Okay. Do you sometimes take another question after session like this? Another deep question from the place that they arrived?
Yes, it depends on time. Classes are generally between 40-45 minutes long, school classes. So you can usually manage just about one. And sometimes you sort of, you really want to do another because there's a follow-up question required. You'd have to wait for the next class. But there's another way, which is I've tried S.O.L.Es with 10-minute sessions with multiple questions, one after the other. So you take the first one, let it go for 10 minutes, get the presentation. Depending on that, make the second, you have to think on your feet really quickly. Go for the second 10 minutes, the third 10 minutes, and this time around the whole hive will sort of go in a direction. You can kind of sense that direction. Otherwise you can't control S.O.L.Es. Yeah.
So this is a follow-up question. So I'm guessing that the question in the 10-minute S.O.Ls are easier questions.
Yes, you're right. I mean, she's saying, are they easier questions? They're easier in the sense that they're usually a bit more factual than what we did just now.
Okay.
So I would have, if I had to do this one with 10-minute S.O.Ls, okay, it's a good example. So I would have said, is there silence inside music? 10 minutes. You don't even need 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and the group will come up with, yes, there is silence inside that. Is silence the opposite of sound? 10 minutes. Okay, silence is the opposite of sound. So you mean to say that music is made with its opposite? Third 10-minute question. And by the fourth 10-minute question, you would have got to where they got.